All right, welcome back to another episode of Commission Breath. Your host, Tom Moffat here, and I'm flying solo on the host side of things. Brandon's actually not going to be able to make it today, but I've got Alex Shanks on today for a really, really awesome episode because we were connecting over Instagram DM and we've known each other probably for what, like in the last 2-3 years, going back and forth and connecting.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Well, I know we'll talk about it, Tom, but I think we both probably started like close to the same time. But I mean, like we were both on TikTok at the same time back in the heyday.
Yeah, we were like copying each other's content.
Yeah.
I remember that.
That's the lovely thing about TikTok. It's just like, hey, just take a piece of content and just make it your own.
Exactly. Because, a day later, it's going to be gone in the atmosphere. But
yeah, exactly.
I really wanted to have you on because I forget how our conversation started, but you just threw out this stat. I had to like do a double take. I'm like, what the fuck? Are you serious? You went from 50 files funded to 189 in 1 year.
Blew my mind, man. I didn't really expect it. I knew so I started January 2022. I got the tail end of some lower rates, pretty much the worst time in history for mortgages. I've always kind of got into things at the worst time, but I think I did 18 deals that year, working kind of like what you used to do. I did work shift work, which was super lucky that way. And then, the next year went up to 50 deals and then it went nuts.
That's a great start. So I started, I want to say going back to like 2021. So I think I've got a year on you, but like to have that quick of a start in year 3 now, 189 deals, like that's insane, man. We can go in many different directions with this episode, but we like to focus on the leads, marketing, and sales aspects, as I'm sure you're aware. So I would love to really just break down what the big differences were from that second year to the third year.
I mean, I think it's like, for one, nothing really different. I think like everyone says it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years for like a business to really start churning. And I mean, we talk about TikTok. Like when I started, I was like, how can I get out to the most amount of people as fast as possible? And remember I did my first video, it had 100 views on it. I'm like, holy shit, this video has 100 people that just watched it. I can't even like meet that many people that quickly. I worked away, so like it was hard to always be booking appointments with like potential referral partners. And it's pretty hard at first when you just start out. You're like, hey, I'm a mortgage broker. I'm going to offer you the best service. I needed to show what I actually had. And that's where videos, I think, really helped. Is like, hey, I used to do 3 to 5 videos a day. It was like I was in every single person's face. The problem with TikTok, and I mean, I got pushed to Ontario. That's where like a lot of my content went. And I'm like, shit, I should have probably focused more in my area, really done like Instagram and everything. Cause that's how I really started to build my referral base, like actually targeting realtors, making a video for them. Hey, this is what your property could sell for. This is what you could get for a budget and stuff. And that's what really started to build my center of influence, was showing people that value I add.
Interesting. Okay, so let's go to square one. You started on TikTok. You're doing 3 to 5 videos a day. It sounds like you've scaled that back to like maybe 1 video a day.
Maybe like 1 video a week. If I'm lucky, it's like,
really, eh?
Yeah. Like, and I mean, TikTok is such a different place now. I mean, like on average for a while, I used to get like anywhere from 10 to 50,000 in views. Now I got very addicted to the vanity. I'm not going to lie. Like you get addicted to the view count. You're like, this is amazing. I closed 10 deals the first year from social media. So I was like, hey, like this could work. I tried to go way too big. I was like, I'm going to take over Canada. I'm going to be the TikTok mortgage broker. There's too much that way. There's too much content. And so that was hard, but it was like, hey, I'm getting all these views. Oh my God, this is amazing. But I wasn't getting deals from it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I toy with that in my head too. It's like, because I'm going in the more general finance direction for content, and I've got a different point of view as to why I want to go that direction. But then some days I'm like, man, if I just like was more specific, like hyper local, and just did the content for realtor partners, I'm sure I would probably get more business now, but it's more of like the long-term play that I'm trying to build out. But are you saying like, if we went back to your actual lead sources and closed deals from social, would you say most of them are direct to consumer, or are they from the referral partners that you built from posting?
It's now from referral partners. I mean, it's hard to go back and say, is 80% of my business from social media? I probably would have to say yes. It doesn't come from social media now, but it's the connections that I made from social media to get my business to where it is now.
And I would imagine that's from Instagram, not TikTok.
Exactly, 100%. I have a few people that still like connect with me from TikTok and everything, all I use TikTok for, and I think I even heard you say that it's my thing because I know how to use it. It's what I started in. I make my video in there. I post it. I take it out. I put it on Instagram and Facebook. It's just the easiest way for me to like do it.
Yeah, it's so easy to copy that link, download it on
Exactly.
Snaptic, and then
Yeah.
just, yeah. And the Instagram's easier for referral partner connections because you
Yep.
can search people. Well, you can't search people easier. I would probably say TikTok has a better search algorithm now, but more so like the DMs, the stories. It's just more of that community atmosphere
Yeah.
versus TikTok. So, can we go back to, so now that you went from like TikTok going hard on that to focusing on Instagram, how did you make those connections? Are mostly realtors or who are the referral partners?
Yeah, most of my business is referral partner. And I mean, I will also say, like, so a year of doing that, business was like building. It's like, hey, this is like, it's going definitely that way. But I then also, I started with 10 loans a month. I pretty much, the day that I got my license, I like paid for that. And I always find people are so hesitant to pay money, especially in the mortgage world. We're like, oh my God, I don't want to pay for this. It's like, man, every other business out there costs like $100,000, even just to start. And so, it was like a no brainer for me. I jumped in with Ryan Wiley first. That was my first one, which was amazing with the budgets and everything. I did some webinars. It wasn't for me that way. And so I still take the budgets. That's part of my business.
Mhm.
The second one I did with Scott actually on like the 4 slide. I'd been trying to replicate the 4 slide just from his podcast and try and be like, how do I do this? How do I actually pitch it to a realtor? I got it. I did it, but it just didn't sit with me. I'm like, hey, I'm just pitching them like, hey, I have really good service. Then I joined up with Jason Henneberry, and this is before he had started Strategy Hub and everything. We started going over like the advanced like strategies. I'm like, holy shit, this actually now gives me something to go to a full realtor office. So from there in year one, like year two, all I did was just pitch to brokerage head offices. I would just say, hey, I have this cool presentation. It was before like Jason even had like the actual plans ready. I just said, screw it. I'm just going to pitch them. I'm just going to go and talk about this. So for almost like 6 months, I just did like full on presentations with like offices.
Interesting. I love that. And I know you said over DM you don't actually do a lot of advanced mortgage
Yeah.
strategy. It's more so just your foot in the door to
Yeah.
create that conversation and that connection. So what were some of the advanced strategies that you were teaching?
The main one I did was just cash damming. That was the one, like, I wanted to solve a problem for like realtors. Like, hey, how do we go and get someone to buy a place today? I had
Yeah.
one person that took it. The hardest thing I would say in my area for realtors is there's a lot of lazy ones. People aren't willing to go and do things. Like, I could give them all the information, all the sources. They just won't do it. And
Yeah.
so, like, I had one
Totally.
realtor that actually took it, did it. He got a deal from it in like a week. I'm like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
Again, why won't other people? But like, I don't know. They almost think free stuff is like, oh, I'm not going to do it. It's like, man, like this would help your business if you actually did this,
Yeah.
but they just don't want to do it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if they do it or not, because I would imagine it led to those
Yeah.
partnerships, right? Like you're getting your
Oh,
business
exactly.
from those offices now.
Yeah. It's built those relationships. It was a long burn. Like I did those. It wasn't like I just got a deal that day. I don't know if I would say I'm like stubborn, but like I definitely like, I don't take it of, hey, if it doesn't work the first time, doesn't mean it's not going to work. It's like, till I've like burnt the gas out of it. Like even TikTok, I did it for probably 5 months before I got a lead, but I'm like, I can see it. There's something here that it is going to work. And
Right.
that's the same thing with doing presentation. I did it for a year. Every second Tuesday, didn't get a single lead from it. I finally, this year, I've gotten 6 leads from it. So I'm like, hey, it took me a full year of doing stuff, but hey, it's paying off now.
Yeah, that's like anything in this business. You can pick one avenue as long as you stick to it and you do it over a long period of time, it will work. Like TikTok, I'm sure if you just kept doing that 3 to 5 posts every week or every day, even if the algorithm changed, you would
Yeah.
still get business from it. It's just like which one fits more naturally for you and
Yeah.
which one is more sustainable. And it sounds like the presentations gave you that foundation. And it's actually very timely for me because I've been reaching out. Well, today was day one. I did reach out over DMs, video DMs to realtors, specifically ones that I've already connected with through like my broadcast channel. And I'm
Yeah.
doing a hard ask, like in the video, asking them to hop on a meeting. But I think like going the direction of what you did, where you open up with, hey, I have this presentation I'd like to show
Yeah.
you. It's very unique. Here's kind of like the basics of it. I think that would probably do a bit better than just asking for a meeting because like they get pitched all the time from other mortgage brokers.
That's the problem I had. I just like the way when I was like messaging realtors, like, hey, I would always try like find a connection, like, hey, I know that you work with this guy. Try and find connections, but like it just didn't ever feel right to me. I'm like, because what am I going to provide them? And hey, at that time, I understand mortgages, investing, and everything, but my knowledge level is now so far advanced. And now it's like, hey, I actually provide you a service that, like, hey, if you send someone to me, you know it's going to be a really good deal for one, my communication, but it's like the other things I provide. And so it's easy for me to sell myself now
Yeah.
because of what I had. And I 100% give that props to Jason for doing that stuff because it allowed me to be like, hey, I have something I can provide now. I probably would have just kept going around saying, hey, I got good communication, good service. Like I know my business would have grown, but it never wouldn't have gone like that.
Yeah, he's actually coming up with this new breaking bank strategy. I'm sure
Yeah.
you know, but for the listener, he's essentially doing that same method of outreach, but the value add is, hey, I have this offer for you. Come write an article for this breaking bank newsletter, and you'll be able to have your face shown to thousands of eyeballs. So I think he wants me to start doing that, kind of test it out and see how that goes. And I know he's launching that. If he hasn't already, I think he's launching that very shortly.
He was doing a 3-day thing today. I already have it and I'm a partner on it. Like I do that stuff. Again, it's hardest thing for me is time management now. I don't have the time to keep reaching out. And that's where I want those tools so that for one, I know my referral partners are always getting upgraded services. I
Yeah.
don't ever want to just stop and be like, hey, I have all these partners. I have really good. I need to make sure I'm always providing another service for someone, for one, for them, for the clients. And so that's where, yeah, I mean, Jason pretty much has me hooked for life on anything.
Yeah, I don't know like how shit works in his brain, man. He's just always
Oh
one
yeah.
step ahead. It's nuts. Cool, man. So, okay, you've got your base of realtors, your foundation there. So, mostly referral partners was the original source of your business. I think you mentioned you get a lot of business now from past clients.
Yeah, exactly. That was one thing is like the first 2 years was all just like referrals and maybe like friends and family, where now it's clients that are now referring back to me. I have a couple clients that I've done like 6 deals with, like just like, hey, boom, we've got something we want to keep going. Like, so that's pretty awesome to have that now. I did my first actual like renewal on a deal. I'm like, holy shit, 3 years later, I'm getting another business now. All my stuff is mostly purchases. I'm not even into like the renewal and refinance at the moment.
So, was that your first renewal from a past client or your first
Yeah,
renewal in general?
first renewal from a past client.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And I mean, I stay pretty far away from renewals.
So
I
do
know
I.
we've all talked about this amazing, there's what, 1 billion mortgages coming up and everything. As soon as I saw it, though, I'm like, these lenders are so aggressive. I
Mhm.
will have a call with someone, 5 minutes. Hey, yeah, you definitely have options. Hey, figure out what your lender is going to provide you. I will help you if you don't need anything. I will help you get a lower rate from them. I'm not doing an application. I'm not taking that. I'm not going to try and beat them when all they want is just a lower rate. They don't need me for anything, so I'm not going to spend my time.
That's the model, man. Squeeze a referral or review out of them and have them win on rate going back to the lender, squeeze
Yeah.
the juice out of that lender,
Yeah.
and away you go. Yeah.
And that's what the referral partners know. Like I get realtors that send me like, hey, I have a client that has a renewal coming up. They ask them like, hey, you always send them to me. I guarantee you that they'll get the best advice. Is it with me or just with their current lender?
Sweet. And your structure is very unique in the sense that you're pretty hands off with your file. Can you run
Yep.
us through the structure of how your team is and how the lead comes in and basically from lead to close?
Totally. It was for a couple reasons. For one, I definitely jumped into something at like lower volumes because I'm like, hey, I don't actually need this. Like I could have kept doing stuff myself, but I have family. I have 2 kids. I have a wife. I want to be present there. I want to do things. I don't want to be working 10, 12 hours a day. And on the mortgage world, I mean, we always have to answer phone calls. So I needed to find a way to say, hey, how do I keep answering calls for the important things, but not miss the small things?
You basically have the conversation with the client and then you hand it off. You're not touching the file.
Yeah. So the way it works, like, so I have someone that, like, if you were a referral partner, you send me an introduction, Tom. I'd send them everything, either set them up with just like a phone call or a Zoom. I want to be the main person. I'm like here. I want to do the plan. I've always liked like a longer discovery call. That's like where I personally get to sell myself. I know, like, I think you guys have talked about sometimes people try and just rush through it, but I'm like, hey, I'd rather spend the upfront time on it. Makes the rest of the deal a lot easier. And so at the end of the call, it's like, hey, we're happy to be working together on everything. I'm going to send you a link to an application. You're going to get an introduction to some of my team. They're here to support you with the application and documents. After that, I send my notes to my team. Someone's going to call that client to help them with the application. get all the documents. That's the intake person. Once that's done, we then send out, hey, everything is done. We're going to start making your mortgage plan with our underwriter and Alex. So it goes to my underwriter. I got OCD. I am always looking at stuff, even though like I'm hands off, but I am still there. So I know what's going on. I just don't look at documents anymore. I don't really know what a pay stub says. I don't know what the down payment says. Everything gets built onto our sheet for us. My underwriter will kind of review it. If I think I have questions, I'll either just do it myself and say, hey, send them out their custom mortgage plan, sending that Loom video. Hey, these are all the different options, breaking everything down. Do you want to make a strategy call? Hey, from there, they're pre-approved. I let them know, hey, this is your budget. I connect with their realtor if they weren't given to me right away, making sure that they know everything's good to go. Once I have an offer in, it then goes again back to the underwriter so he can send everything into the lender that we agreed upon. And then from there, we have a closing specialist as well. Her job is just to take all the final documents, closing packages, compliances. I don't want to have to be dealing with all that stuff. I was telling a referral partner last night, like, hey, I think in total, our brokerage, there's two of us, there's two brokers. We close like 400 deals. I still will pick up on like the second ring. People are like blown away sometimes. They're like, Alex, I know I have 10 deals with you. How are you answering the phone? And I'm like, hey, that is because I have a team that can support me so I can just answer the phone.
Mm-hmm. That's another timely piece because we just hired an underwriter as of yesterday. And hearing that is pretty much the structure we're looking for. The only difference is we still haven't figured this out, whether he's going to take the point of contact for discovery call, because he's actually a mortgage agent. He has the experience to do the calls as well. But when you're going through your process, are you doing the budgets and the Loom review for every client? Or did you say it's kind of like a mix? The underwriter sometimes does that too.
No, so I'm doing all that, but he will help me figure out like, hey, Alex, we got 5 different properties. This is like what my thoughts are for how we're going to have to structure this. It's nice. We get to bounce ideas. The hardest thing I find with mortgages, it's a lonely place. I mean, it's cool. Like we get to connect talking with other mortgage brokers. I love that. A lot of people don't like to share stuff. And so for one underwriter we have, he's probably the best in Canada without a doubt. He has a lot of knowledge and everything. And so I get to pull on his knowledge. And hey, we also have Tyler, our owner of the company. Hey, he has crazy knowledge as well. We get to pull him if something seems really weird. And so like, I mean, our funding ratios are like 99%. If we send something in, it's good to go. It's not like, oh, I hope the underwriter approves this.
Gotcha. So it's just the two of you, like you and Tyler and the brokers, there's no other agents?
There's no other agents, just us as mortgage brokers.
Interesting. And when you're going back and forth with the underwriter, like how are you guys communicating all this? Do they have one email?
Have you ever heard of Front?
No. Is it like Slack?
Yeah, I guess kind of it's kind of like Slack. So I use Outlook for my email, but so we have Front. And so this is where like I get to still send all my emails. I have 2 emails accounts. I have one, Alex at Designer Capital. That's only for me. I then have an alex.support. When that one goes out, my team gets to see the email. So I always send what to clients with that one. We then are able to tag and like make comments. We have an email thread with all of our comments on it. So I can say, hey guys, this client's coming in, first time home buyer. This is what income should look like. This is what down payment should look like. So they can match everything up to what the client said to me. Because we know that sometimes a client might say, hey, I make 200K. And it's like, hey, you made 50,000.
Yeah. Does it connect the emails together?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like it allows us to do so many things. Again, it can be done from the phone. Like I can manage my business from a phone. I can be like, hey, I got to go pick up my kids. I know stuff's still happening. If I have to jump in to say, hey guys, we need to make sure that this is going to go good with the lawyers, I can just tag people in. It's pretty slick that way.
So that's the real reason why you're able to handle that many files.
Oh, if I did what I did last year by myself, I probably would have been working 18-hour days. I think if we actually looked at average, maybe 6-hour days, like kind of maximum. Some days I wouldn't even work at all. And I mean, we had a 1-year-old, we moved a house, we did construction. And I was just like, man, if I didn't have that set up, my life would have just been all mortgages.
Yeah, there's no way, man. I love that. That's like the lifestyle mortgage biz right there.
It's hard. And I mean, Tyler is hands down way better than I am. Like he doesn't look at anything until it's like, hey, it's at the planning meeting. He'll then look at everything. I have my hands still in everything. Like I know what's going on. I sometimes have to jump in to say, hey, how's it going with those documents? Do you need help with anything? I'm updating the referral partner. So like I'm trying to find ways to pull myself like slowly more and more out. But again, it's only being in it for 3 years. I'm like, I need to be there because I'm like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I need to make sure the client's happy.
For sure. And you want to kind of learn from different
Yeah.
file situations too. Like for us being like relatively green, it is good to kind of be in it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like your dream outcome would be pretty much you have the upfront call with the client and you
Yeah.
hand it off. That's kind of it. Like you might have like maybe one or two like quick
Yeah.
touch points on closing, but really that's the dream outcome is you're not touching anything during the process.
Exactly. That's where I mean, I've never liked dealing with underwriters, like having to argue, like, hey, I'm using this pay stub. It's missing hours because they were on a vacation. Like, that's just stuff that I don't want to get involved with. It's just like, hey, I just want to help people make plans, help them save money, come up with strategies. And I mean, down payment. I haven't looked at down payment in forever. Like, that's the most amazing thing.
I was joking with Brandon today. Our fulfillment specialist is off today, and
Yeah.
she handles down payment for us. And I haven't done it in probably like at least a year and a half, 2 years. And I was joking, like, man, if I had to touch a down payment document today, we're all screwed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can like still jump in. It's hard now. Sometimes clients will say, hey, Alex, like, what does that look like? And I'm like, oh, yeah, it looks good. Like, kind of have to say, like, I don't, but I prepare people like, hey, this is what I'm really good at. This is what my team's really good at. It's making sure that they understand why they're there. It was a hard thing for myself coming in at first. It's a learning curve of like, why is this person asking for these documents, Alex? Why aren't you doing that? It's like, hey, everyone is here to support you. This is so that, hey, if you call me, I can answer the phone.
Yeah. And you're having that upfront discussion
Yeah.
on discovery call. Like you're saying, hey, here's our team structure. Here's what I'm good at. You're
Yeah.
going to be introduced to so and so down the line. Like that's how you're kind of like teeing it up for them.
Yeah. I don't really like introduce each person. And that's where something I'm trying to make a better, like, actual campaign of like, hey, I've got the introduction. I've done the discovery call. Hey, this is what it's going to look like. I want like a bit of a full email thing to come out that way. Hey, you're meeting the intake person. This is what they're here for. Hey, you're going to meet the like underwriter and everything. I'd like that to be a little bit more mapped out. It's just finding the time.
Yeah, time. It's always
Yeah.
like the kryptonite there. And so, okay, like in the next foreseeable future, like some of your goals are to map stuff like that out. So,
Yep.
like maybe like polishing a bit of the client journey,
Yep.
taking yourself out of the file a bit more. Do you have like a file or volume goal that you want to hit, or are you just looking to like keep the same amount of fundings but like less time per day?
Yeah. I mean, that one in my head, I'm scared to be hard on myself. And mortgages, we talk about volume, we talk about like the deal like numbers. And so this year I really told myself, hey, Alex, like last year was amazing. This year I'm really trying to get back to my family. I was always there for my kids, but me and my wife need to spend more time together. And so I've even said in my head, hey, Alex, even if the volume drops, you're going to be able to bring that somewhere else. I got to make sure I'm filling buckets elsewhere. My goal is to stick still above 50 million. I hope that's easy. I'm on trajectory for higher than that, but I want to make sure that I'm not hard on myself that, hey, if you don't do this, it's not devastating.
Yeah, you know your number from like a commissions perspective,
Yeah.
like how much you need to live a comfortable life. And I think that's one of the biggest things in this industry is like there's so much ego involved that everyone just goes like based off of volume.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're spending a lot of money on expenses or you're buying down rate, like at the end of the day, volume doesn't matter. It's how
Yeah.
much you keep net
Yeah.
revenue and how many hours a day you're working on the file.
Yeah. And that's where for me, like, I mean, my split for everyone, it's quite a bit higher. It's not the same as like, hey, if you were just working by yourself, my net revenue could be higher, but my net time would be substantially higher. I've crunched the numbers. Even if I hired, say, 2 people to help support me, I couldn't make the cost the same and I wouldn't get the level of service. And so that's where I think mortgage brokers have a hard time. We want the cheapest amount. We don't want the client to get the cheapest rate, though. We want them to say, hey, well, our service is worth it. And so that's where for me, I've looked at my numbers. I'm happy with the split I get because of what I get to provide and the service I get to provide to people.
Yeah, that split that you're paying for, you're basically paying for employees, and it
Employees.
sounds like you would be paying more if you're on your
Oh,
own. So
yeah.
100% well worth it.
Yeah. And that's where it's, I mean, and again, yeah, talking about the income, I have a company. My wife also has her own business. We try and just pay up myself as little as possible from my company. And I just leave it in there. The job I used to do, I used to work away a lot. I made really good money. I then started working a week on, week off, made really bad money, started doing mortgages, made really bad money. It's only up from there. So like, I don't need to make a crazy amount. I'd like to, it feels good, but I also got to make sure that it's planning with the family.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm the same way. Cool, man. Well, always try to end the conversation with this one just because we have a lot of newer brokers and
Yeah,
agents listening to this, but also I think it's of value for like more seasoned vets that are trying to get back into like prospecting, lead gen. If you had to go back day one, what would the structure be like in terms of like what are your daily non-negotiables going to be and what are you going to do to drive that business in right away?
though, I mean, I would definitely, if I had Strategy Hub, I would be doing that before TikTok. Like, I want social content out there. I just would have been making maybe content about that. But I would have wanted to provide something so I could actually call realtor offices and say, hey, I have this to provide you. Hey, I have a financial planner. Hey, this is what I have to provide you. You're kind of running in the fish. Like when you're learning, you're just like, hey, I do mortgages. This is what I can provide you. It's like actually having a value or service to give someone, like that's going to help.
So, learning advanced mortgage strategy, whether you do them or not, get it in your head from a knowledge perspective. Reach out to referral partners, get your stable base there, sprinkle in some social content. Are those the
Yeah,
three?
100%.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Having the advanced mortgage strategies, it can allow you to stand out versus other even like 20 plus year brokers that are still pitching prepayment privileges and penalties.
Yeah.
Like you hear that all the time. It's like, man, like the value you're providing is not worth a 30, 40 basis point spread.
No, exactly. That's where you got to provide other stuff. And for one, I mean, is the bank going to pick up your call? I'm going to call. And so, like, we are worth something. But,
Yes.
like, if it's 0.7% difference, if they're not even going to use the prepayment privileges, it's like, hey, I can't even sell that. I know you guys have had Matt on there. Like, what he's done is amazing. Like, that's a value I can now provide to clients. To me, it's not really the clients, it's referral sources. I get to go to them and say, hey, you have a bunch of database, you could help show your clients how they could save a lot of money. And that's where it's helping provide value that way.
And that's why you're successful, man. Because I could see any topic we talk about, your head goes in the direction of like, how can I leverage other people's databases or their network? And you can tell you've done that through all of the different things you've done in your biz thus far. Is like thinking, okay, how can I go to referral partners with this? So I love it.
I mean, I think it was actually Scott Peckford's recent one, that Wally guy. Like, we all think about clients, but it's like, really, we have to think about how do we provide service to other people. I'll tell you this, out of those, like the mortgages I did in my first year, I did a lot of mortgages for free, but I did it because, like, hey, I just want to do as many mortgages as possible. I took every single client, I told them, hey, I'm going to give you all my commission back. I don't care. Again, I just wanted to touch my hand on every single thing that way. I would 100% do that again. Be like, hey, I want to get a bunch of deals. Hey, I'm going to give you all my money back.
Is that what you did?
Yeah, to clients and to like referral partners. I just said, hey, I want to do the deal. This is what you get. Again, I had my other business. I was still making money
Right.
elsewhere. And so obviously I'm in a better position to do that. But that's where I was able to go and get a bunch of deals. I still made money. I was still able to do deals and not do that. But I mean, I picked up every deal, even if the credit was bad. I ran through full applications. I knew the deal wasn't going to go anywhere, but I wanted to touch everything, refine the process where now I can say, hey, Tom, sorry, your credit's bad. We got to work on that. You come back to me once you fix that. Here's everything you need to do. I'm not going to spend my time on that anymore.
Yeah, it's like the same mindset as maybe like going through some sort of mentorship for free where you're
Yeah,
helping an experienced broker through files, but you're doing it for free. And it's like, I'm going to butcher the quote, but basically, I heard yesterday in a podcast that the mentor has a higher price to pay than the person doing the work for free.
100%. Every business I've ever done, I've always tried to reduce the workload that a mentor has to do so that I can give back to them. And there's that like, hey, I'll do this for free. Hey, I'll take stuff back into my office. I'll do it on my own time. And that's where like I started in my past role of what I used to do, started as a trainee. In 2 years, I was managing the company. And that was just because I took every single thing that I could do. I said yes to everything and I made sure that I understood it all.
Beautiful. Awesome, man. Well, you threw a lot of value bombs in this episode. I'm probably going to listen back to it because a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, I'm in the same situation too. So always love connecting with you and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Tom. It was fun.